Hey there, it's Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR. Before we get into the next episode, I wanted to ask that you subscribe to the show. It'll help us get even more unique and interesting guests on the podcast and in turn continue to educate management teams and the growing ecosystem that creates value for fast-growing private and public companies. And while you're at it, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. Very much appreciated.
The whole industry operates on a premise of winner take all. We don't see safety that way. We see safety as collaborative. And if everyone comes with their own software, everyone comes with their own black box, it doesn't work.
Winning isn't always about being the first or the best. Sometimes it's about building solutions that push a whole industry forward.
One car manufacturer may innovate in certain areas, but it doesn't scale well. And this is why we built a software-first approach that can work with any of those hardware, and that allows independence, but also flexibility.
Being a public company can be hard. Small missteps can have outsized consequences. I'm Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR. And over the last 25 years, we've helped thousands of companies understand and navigate the stock market and the media. We'll demystify these and other increasingly complex stakeholder groups so you can focus on what you do best, building your company and unlocking your true potential. This is Welcome to the Arena from ICR. Every industry has its trailblazers, but true innovation goes beyond patents and profits. Today's guest understands that collaboration and flexibility aren't just ideals, they're essential to creating safer, smarter technologies that drive progress across an entire ecosystem. Frantz Saintellemy is the CEO of LeddarTech, an automotive, ADAS, and autonomous driving software company trading under the symbol LDTC. As an engineer, innovator, and internationally recognized expert in advanced technology, Frantz brings over 25 years of experience in the electronics and automotive sectors. He is the co-founder of Groupe 3737, an incubator and innovation hub, and previously served as VP and General Manager of the Automotive and Industrial Division at Integrated Device Technology. His remarkable career includes roles as President and Executive VP of Global Sales and Marketing at ZMDI AG, a global supplier of automotive and industrial sensor solutions. And he was also CTO and Corporate VP of Technology, Marketing, and Advanced Engineering at Future Electronics. A graduate of the MIT Sloan Engineering Fellows Program on Innovation and Global Leadership with a degree in Electrical Engineering from Northeastern and an MBA from McGill, Frantz's expertise has a firm academic foundation. And in 2021, he was appointed Chancellor of the University of Montreal, underscoring his commitment to both innovation and education. Let's enter the arena with Frantz Saintellemy.
Well, LeddarTech, we actually were founded in 2007 out of research from a university in the city of Quebec. And we were founded with the premise of developing signal acquisition, signal processing. In fact, we were a pioneer in that space. And one of the sectors we pioneered was the LiDAR space, actually. We were one of the very few companies, earliest actually, with Velodyne to develop and commercialize LiDARs using our unique signal acquisition and signal processing software techniques. And then eventually we started branching out and we started not just developing the sensors, but then the perception stack that came out of the sensors. So how do you interpret the data that the sensors were acquiring? And we realized that perception was going to be critical, but also fusing different signal modalities from cameras, radars, and LiDAR. So eventually we evolved to become a fusion and perception company that develops AI-based fusion software that helps car manufacturers build more safety systems, more safe ADAS, safe driving systems. So what we do is we take inputs or outputs from all of the types of sensors you find in the vehicle. So there are known sensors such as cameras, radars. Those are common, but there's also ultrasonic sensors, which, helps with parking, for example. And then more commonly, you have HD map, and then you have the vehicle dynamics. The vehicle dynamics is, are you driving on a paved road? If you're driving on a paved road versus an unpaved road, the car behaves very differently. So that provides a lot of information. Is it a wet road or a dry road? And so all of that then gets fused and then merge into what we call a 3D environmental representation of the vehicle's surrounding. And we do that in super high definition, high resolution, and we do that 30 times per second. That allows us to actually identify, classify, segment the types of objects that are in the vehicle surroundings, but also allows us to do things that the human eye couldn't do, like a 360-degree coverage of the vehicle. And even if the vehicle is occluded or there are obstacles that you cannot see with the human eye, because of the unique AI techniques that we have, we're able to actually see through the other objects. So we can see really what's going on in the scene, and that creates more safe driving. And we do that effectively with the existing sensors that are on the vehicle.
Yeah, and you're hardware agnostic, correct?
Correct, exactly. So we can take the data coming from any types of hardware. And what is also important is we enable our software to be ported on any type of processor that's out there. So give complete flexibility to the auto industry. And that's a very good point, Tom, because most of the systems that are out there today, the software is actually to support the existing hardware that they're ported on, meaning that you cannot disaggregate the software from the hardware. So you're forced to use whatever the sensor manufacturer or the component manufacturer offers you. This really limits the ability for the industry to scale.
Yeah.
And we believe this is breakthrough because wherever software it can be disaggregated from the hardware, like we see in the smartphones, in the computers, in the data centers. Software always win.
Yeah. And talk about the automotive safety issues you're solving for. I have to think 95% of accidents or more are human error. And a lot of the features within a car have evolved from safety, like seatbelts and braking and suspension and things like that. Mm-hmm. Talk about a world when this is kind of mass produced out there. What does that look like? Maybe comment on some of the safety issues that that people might not think about every day.
Ever since the advent of the automobile, it was always assumed that crashes were inevitable. And so all the technologies that you've mentioned before, like seatbelts or airbags, anti-lock braking systems, they were meant to mitigate the impact of the crashes. And so over the last decade, regulators across the globe have started to realize that there's enough technology to start thinking about preventing the crashes. And as you said, 95% of them are caused by human error. And out of those 95%, pretty much 3/4 of which are caused by the inability of the human to stay in the lane. And so typically, that's what's causing most of the accidents. So there's enough technology that's out there that can actually eradicate all of that together. So regulators across the globe have tended to that. But of course, the industry is slow mover. And so they've enacted what in the European Union, what's called the General Safety Regulation, which was supposed to come online in 2020. In fact, actually, the first iteration was in 2017. And then that got pushed out into 2020. And then the car manufacturers or the industry asked for another delay to 2022, which basically mandates that any car that gets produced out of the European Union by 2025 has to have basic collision avoidance, has to be able to recognize vulnerable road users, that's pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists, and be able to avoid any contact, any impact with them. And so, which means that all cars now have to have basic safety systems. So, the seatbelt, as much as the industry is innovative, the seatbelt, it had to be mandatory for all cars to have it. Airbags. And so once you have regulation, now all cars now have to have it. before this regulation, active safety, Tom, was a budget thing. So if you could buy a premium vehicle, it came as a standard. But if you bought a $30,000 Fiat, for example, or a 25,000 euro Fiat, it didn't include it. So you basically had to be cognizant of that. But today, it's no longer just a marketing and a budget thing. Now, every car, whether it's a 15,000 euros or $20,000 or $70,000, it's one and the same. They're going to have this basic collision avoidance. And so you can imagine the impact that does on society. We think that's going to save lives, but also it's going to bring us closer to making autonomous driving real, because these are autonomous features that are going to happen, behind the scene to augment the driver's capabilities.
So that's very easy to understand, the safety issues for consumers every day. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, as you develop the technology, who are your target customers and what are the pain points that you're solving for them?
So first of all, the end customer is always the OEM. And we sell directly to the OEMs, but we can also sell via the tier ones, the integrators of the technology. So companies like Continental, Bosch, Aptiv are some of the major tier ones. And then we also sell through the component manufacturers. The component manufacturers would be like companies like Texas Instruments, ARM.
Okay.
They make the processors that make the brain of those vehicles. By having our software ported on those processors, it allows the OEMs or the tier ones to start developing from the onset with our software. And so the main problems are basically three things. The first thing is cost. So if you're going to make safety mandatory, it can't cost more because you cannot charge for more. So it's got to be low cost. The second thing is it's got to be high performance. So look, detecting an object at 200 meters versus 100 meters, what it means is it gives you an extra 2 seconds to brake. That makes a huge difference in saving lives. The higher the performance, the longer distance you can cover, the better it is, the faster the reaction of the safety system. And then the last, which is not least, no car manufacturer has one vehicle or one brand or one category of vehicle. So they have multiple brands, multiple segments that they need to sell to. And so they need a solution that can scale from your entry model to your mid model to your premium model. So if you're Volkswagen or you're Ford, you've got a number of vehicles that you need to address. And today, for each model, each vehicle, and even the geography, they need to keep different types of software. So keeping these softwares up to date and maintaining them is a nightmare, is a massive cost, is a massive endeavor. And they translate into lower profitability. But also if you have recalls, for example, if you have a problem, they need to recall all of them because they're not sure which one is affected. So we see that scalability is a major factor. What we enable, we have one software stack. Just think about it like your Microsoft OS, your Microsoft Windows. It's one software, but then that software can enable the basic systems as well as your medium and your premium system. And so the car manufacturers don't have to keep tens of different types of software. They can maintain one software and be able to actually offer the scalability that we talked about from your basic entry all the way to your premium.
The industry is full of new technologies, and LeddarTech have added an impressive list of innovations to the mix. With over 160 patents filed or granted, they also understand what it takes to protect those innovations. They have a unique approach to IP, and it gives them the best of both worlds, the security they need to stay competitive and the flexibility to help their partners and customers build alongside them.
From the very onset, I mentioned earlier, the company was founded on university research. And so IP was always an important part of our development strategy. But we wanted to develop IP not to hold the customer hostage. We wanted to develop IP that had enough flexibility to allow us to enable as many customers and as many partners as possible. So we have a growing list of patents and know-how that we actually license to our customers. We want our customers to be able to appropriate themselves of our technology and build on top of that. So our software is more of what we would call a white box. So although there's a lot of know-how and IP, but our main goal is to build an interface that allows the customers to build their application on top of our IP portfolio. This is important because the whole industry operates on a premise of winner take all. We don't see safety that way. We see safety as collaborative. One car manufacturer may innovate in certain areas, but by allowing them the same architecture, the same software stack that they can evolve from, makes the industry safer and makes it easier for us when it comes to troubleshooting.
Talk about how you're differentiated from your competitors. I know there's a lot of companies out there pursuing that market. Talk about how your performance is better than others that might be pursuing this space, because I know there's like range, reliability, cost, things like that.
The market leader in the space is a company out of Israel called Mobileye. Their approach is camera first. So they use cameras as the main sensor for the vehicle, and they build the chip, the lens, the software, the module, everything. So you have to take whatever they're offering. And so while they are the pioneer, they started the industry with ADAS warning systems. For active safety, you need more than one sensor modality. You need multiple cameras, but you also need radars because in case the camera becomes blind because of fog or rain, you have the secondary sensor as a radar, for example. But the main point is that they're a closed box. So what they deliver, the OEMs cannot change it. So if there's a problem, you're always dependent on Mobileye. And so the software and the hardware are built together as one unit. And it's difficult to innovate on a vertical model where you innovate at every layer. We believe that our approach, by taking whatever sensors that are available, there are many cameras that are out there, many radar manufacturers, many LiDAR manufacturers, many ultrasonic manufacturers. And if everyone comes with their own software, everyone comes with their own black box, it doesn't work. It doesn't scale well. And this is why we built a software-first approach that can work with any of those hardware that I mentioned, and that allows independence, but also flexibility to the OEMs and their tier ones to select best of breed. So Mobileye may be the better camera, but then the radar may be better from Continental, the ultrasonic sensor may be better from Bosch. So the OEM can take the lowest cost sensors and apply our software. At the very least, basic models, our software enables 2x the performance. So the way we do that is fairly simple. We combine the benefits of each of the sensors, we merge them together, and that allows us to do things that you couldn't do with just one sensor. I'll give you an example. Our software works like the human brain operates. So the human brain is the ultimate computer. So your eyes sees something, but your ears hears it. So if you actually 2 seconds later close your eyes, you hear the sound, you can confirm 100% that it is a vehicle, even if your eyes now are shut down. So think about in driving. The camera sees it, and then the radar feels it or sees it as well, sees the velocity, sees the object moving at distance. So the way we do it, we actually take advantage of the camera and the radar. And that changes the whole game because now we can apply artificial intelligence on the fused model.
Talk about releasing new versions of your software in the future. I know that the AI-based software continuously learns and you're collecting data. When you release a subsequent software version and then another, how much more advanced is each release given the amount of data that you're collecting and what the AI is learning?
For the most part, we would only release a version if the performance is dramatically improved over the previous generation. And the main reason is, we don't want the car manufacturers to have to go through these certification, homologation, and validation loop. So if it's just incremental, we'll wait till the next generation. But the software is always available for the car manufacturer to update, and that's the car manufacturer's decision. But when we release a version of the software, it always is significantly better than the previous generation. And that's because inherently, of course, the more data is collected, goes through our software, the more robust, the more information gets processed. And that knowledge is institutionalized. And we think that that's a big difference over existing systems. And we think that LeddarTech is the only one that's capable of doing that today.
Is there a misconception about the sector that you feel you'd like to clear up? I know that electric vehicles came out of the box, very, very high demand. Things have softened up. Where do you think some people kind of get it wrong?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is autonomous driving is different from ADAS safety systems. Autonomous driving, we believe in the technology because we're enabling that in the future, but it's still ways away. There's still a lot of things that needs to evolve for us to get to full autonomous driving. However, safety is a market of today. There are at any given point 80 to 100 million vehicles that gets produced every year. And they each needs to improve, evolve their safety features to meet the regulatory demands. And so this creates huge opportunity for a company like LeddarTech. There's not that many options out there. We're the only AI-based software that's doing AI-based fusion and perception. And with our evolution with the industry, we believe that this creates a huge opportunity that is today, not in the future. And then as vehicles become more autonomous and have more autonomous features, eventually to full autonomy, we'll be right there because we will be evolving with the car manufacturers.
What do you see as the future of automotive technology and just travel in general? I've read, I think you've said, obviously, it's leading to positive changes in the industry, but will also provide immense business opportunities in an ecosystem around all of that. What do you see as the future at the next 5 to 10 years of the autonomous vehicle industry and just technology and travel in general?
One of our main goals is, besides improving safety, is also to democratize access to mobility. So for us, there is a lot of the industry is sort of like a closed box today. Every car manufacturer does, each their own. And the mobility challenge is a very different challenge. We see that in the future, as vehicles become more intelligent, more connected, you can think about different types of business models that can be enabled by intelligent and connected vehicles. One of which is very basic. We each have our own cars. Actually, myself, my wife has a car. Yeah. I have a car. I've got a 19-year-old son. He has his own car. They're not used for the most part.
Correct.
And so you can imagine in the future, maybe you don't even own a vehicle. You own like NetJets, for example. You own kilometers or miles. You own hours. You program in your app on your phone, it knows exactly what your schedule is, comes and picks you up, drops you off. Yep. You can do things that you couldn't do before, and you reclaim your personal time. That hour you're stuck in traffic, or two, depending if you're where you live. We can be more productive. We can do things that we couldn't do while we're driving. So besides making and selling cars, different business models will be unlocked by the possibilities of autonomous driving and advanced safety systems. So from my perspective, when you look at the category of automobile, if you extend that to mobility, you can think of endless possibilities of how this is going to transform the way we live and also how it's going to transform society. So I'll give you an example. In some neighborhoods, the poorest of neighborhoods, or in rural communities where there's maybe 1,000 person, it's difficult to have transit, public transportation for 1,000 commuters. It's too small to have a bus driver going back and forth for 10 people at a time. But you could have these shuttles available, and they can operate 24/7. And it's so cheap It will be so efficient. So it won't be a budget thing. Comfort and safety will be for everyone.
Yeah, it's an amazing vision to have. And that's the 5 to 10 year outlook, a more general outlook. How about when you think about LeddarTech and you look at the next 36 months, what are you most excited about?
Well, we are working on a lot of stuff. We've got a lot of interest from the market, given the fact that what we are doing, the industry thought it was impossible for us to do. But we've actually released the LedDAR Navigator a month ago in both Europe, simultaneously in Europe and in China. Over the last months, we've had over 100 plus passengers, engineers and managers of the automotive industry, developers, sitting in our vehicle, testing the features and functionalities of our software. And pretty much overwhelmingly, some of the keywords, it's extraordinary. The best software in the market, the best demo we've ever had, the most compelling. Your software is much better than, performing much better right out of the block, than our in-production software today. So these are some of the comments that we're hearing from the who's who of the industry. So LeddarTech, while this may not reflect yet in how the market values us, but we are building an incredibly powerful software that's going to be the foundation for growth for many decades, not many years, many decades.
Not many companies can say they are saving lives, but Frantz and his team are doing just that. They spotted a critical gap in the industry where siloed tech was stalling overall progress and filled it with their adaptive software-first approach. Advancements in autonomous driving might feel like a trend, but it's one Frantz and his team has spent years anticipating. They have a clear vision of where the industry is heading, and they're prepared to lead the way to a better future on the road. At Welcome to the Arena from ICR, we're working really hard to bring you exciting guests and great content. If you found this episode insightful, please subscribe to the show on your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. The more the show grows, the more interesting voices we can have on the podcast, and in turn, that should demystify a lot of the stakeholders around public companies and soon-to-be public companies. Thank you so much for listening. Huge thanks to Frantz Saintellemy for joining me on the show today. LeddarTech is riding the wave of the energy transition and a shift to electric vehicles, executing at an incredibly high level. Their technology is ultimately going to make driving safer and commuting less of a chore for all of us. That's a pretty valuable proposition, and I'm looking forward to tracking their progress. This is Tom Ryan, and we'll see you next time back in the arena.
References to specific stocks are not intended to be recommendations for specific trading behavior. Comments presented on this podcast are intended for informational and educational purposes only, and do not represent opinions or recommendations on whether to buy, sell, or hold shares of a particular stock. All investors are advised to conduct their own independent research into individual stocks before making a trading decision. In addition, investors are advised that past stock performance is no guarantee of future price performance.